When the earth cracked and the sky forgot to weep, only a forbidden dance could summon the rain. In the village of Mbale, the earth had forgotten rain. Cracks webbed across the soil like broken pottery. Once green farms now bore the color of sorrow. The river Omu, lifeblood of the land, was nothing more than a memory. Dust and pebbles where water once danced. People moved slowly, as if every step wasted precious energy. Hunger gnawed at bellies, but thirst hollowed out the soul. Children no longer laughed. Drums no longer sang. Among them walked Nia, a girl with sun-darkened skin and quiet fire in her eyes. She carried her water pot like a crown, though it was dry. The elders watched her with silent worry. Mama Ebele shook her head. She dreams too loudly. But Nia dreamed of Ogude, the forbidden rain dance. Whispers of it clung to her memory, a sacred rhythm that might still call the clouds home. Many seasons ago, before drought kissed the land, the people of Mbale danced to the drums of the gods. The rain answered their rhythm, falling in praise. But one day, the dance went too far. So said the elders. The gods, angered by pride, cursed the people. The Ogude was banned, its steps erased, its beat silenced. Or so they claimed, but stories live longer than silence. Grandmother Yejide, long gone to the ancestors, once told Nia of the rhythm beneath the rhythm, the one that called the sky to weep. As a child, Nia listened wide-eyed, heart thumping with awe. You must never dance it, Yejide had warned, unless the land forgets the rain completely. Now, as Nia lay beneath the starless night, her ears rang with phantom drums. The wind whispered through the thatch like a warning or a calling, and deep in her soul, the dance waited. At dawn, the village elders gathered beneath the ancient Iroko tree, their backs bent with age and burden. Elder Duma, oldest of them all, tapped his staff against the cracked ground. The sky listens no more, he said, voice dry like the soil. They spoke in low tones, heads bowed, weighing old truths and older fears. The people grow restless, murmured Elder Zuberi. Soon, they will seek answers from stories. And stories lead to rebellion, spat Mama Ebele, her eyes glinting. They speak again of the forbidden steps. Duma's gaze turned distant. If one dances it, the balance may break. It is not for mortal feet. But what if the gods want to be remembered? Asked Elder Wand, barely audible. Silence followed. No one dared answer. Unseen behind the tree, Naya crouched, listening, heart pounding. She now knew. The elders feared the dance, not because it was powerless, but because it still worked. By midday, the sun had no mercy. It burned through the thatch roofs, scorched the yam fields, and turned air into hot breath. Women sang no work songs. Men sat idle, their tools rusting with silence. Even the goats bleated less. Nia stood at the edge of the village, eyes fixed on the wide, cloudless sky. She raised her hand, imagining the feel of raindrops. But the air remained stubborn, still and cruel. She dropped to her knees. Why won't you cry? She whispered. From behind her, little Teboho, barely 5, tugged her wrapper. Nia, Mama says the sky is broken. Nia looked into his dry, cracking eyes. The boy's words weren't wrong. That night she lit a small fire in secret and drew lines in the sand with her fingers. She didn't know all the steps, but her bones remembered something. And in the dark, her feet began to twitch. Nia dreamed of rain, not falling from clouds, but rising from drums. In her sleep, she stood in a wide circle surrounded by nameless dancers, their feet slapping the ground, in ancient rhythm. The sky above pulsed, alive with thunder that echoed their steps. A woman, cloaked in feathers, approached her, eyes glowing like stormlight. "The dance does not belong to time," she said. "It belongs to need." When Neo woke, her heart still beat to the rhythm. She sat up, breathing heavy, sweat on her brow, though the night air was cold. She rose and traced the forgotten symbols into the earth again, this time letting her body sway. She didn't know the full dance, but something inside did. A part, deeper than memory. Outside, the wind stirred slightly, just slightly, and far off, something creaked in the old shrine, the place where no one dared go since the curse began. Hidden behind thick shrubs and twisted fig roots stood the shrine of Obiala, once sacred, now feared. No feet had touched its threshold in decades. The elders had sealed it when the rain stopped responding, declaring it cursed. But Nia found herself drawn there like a leaf pulled by a river current. At dusk, she stood before its mossy stones, heart pounding. The wind whispered through the trees, as if urging her forward. She stepped inside. Cobwebs clung to her skin. The air smelled of dust and old incense. On the far wall, carved into stone, were symbols, faint but alive. She touched them and felt warmth, as if the rock breathed. At the center lay a drum, cracked but whole. She knelt and whispered, "Show me." The drum pulsed once beneath her palm, not loud, not fierce, but real. And in that instant, the air shifted, like something ancient had just opened its eyes. From that night, Nia began to practice, quietly, hidden behind her mother's hut. Each motion she recalled from dreams, each sway her spirit filled in. Her feet moved with purpose. Her arms spoke forgotten prayers. By day, she fetched dry water, smiled at neighbors, and said nothing. By night, she danced. The cracked drum she'd taken from the shrine throbbed softly beneath her palms. Though aged and worn, it still held power. She wrapped it in cloth and carried it like a treasure. Once, she caught Teboho watching her. His eyes were wide. "Don't tell," she whispered, kneeling to his level. "Will it bring rain?" he asked. Nia placed a finger on his lips. "Only if we believe." He nodded solemnly, like a soldier taking oath. From that moment, she wasn't alone. And while the village slept, two hearts kept a rhythm alive. A rhythm the land had not forgotten. One morning, the elders woke to strange footprints circling the Iroko tree. Spiraled patterns, unlike any human steps. No one had seen who made them. "Spirits," said Mama Billy, clutching her waist beads. "We are being warned." Elder Duma inspected the prints silently. His eyes narrowed. All remembered. The villagers spoke in hushed tones that day. Some felt chills in the heat. Others said they heard drums in the wind. But no one dared say the name aloud. Ogwude. Meanwhile, Nia knelt behind the shrine, chalking new symbols into stone. The dance was growing stronger, her body more confident. With each step, she felt something deep within the earth shift, but with power came presence. That night, as she practiced, the wind blew stronger than usual. The drum throbbed louder. Her final stomp cracked the dry ground, and from the trees, something watched, not with eyes, but with memory. Elder Duma sat alone beside the sacred Iroko, sifting ash into lines he hadn't drawn the symbols in years. But last night's wind had spoken. The ground trembled faintly beneath him, like an old drum stirred awake. He closed his eyes. He saw fire, feathers, and footsteps. He saw Naya. When he opened them, he summoned the council of elders. "The dance is returning," he said, voice brittle. Someone has opened the shrine. Gasps rose. Some crossed themselves. Others looked away. If the dance is done wrongly, the land may split, he warned. But if it is done rightly, the gods may answer, Mama Ebele hissed, or they may punish us all. Duma stood, back straighter than it had been in years. Then we must guide the dancer, not chase shadows. But it was already too late. The dance had begun, and the rhythm could not be undone. Late that night, orange flickers danced behind the trees, smoke rising from the direction of the shrine of Obiala. Villagers gathered in fear, unsure whether to run or watch. By the time they arrived, the small flames were gone, but the air smelled of herbs and ash. In the dirt, footprints, drum imprints, and half-burnt feathers. Mama Ebele stepped forward and pointed. "This is Ogud," she whispered. A murmur passed through the crowd. Children clung to mothers. Men whispered prayers. Elder Duma knelt, inspecting the scene. He touched the ashes, brought them to his lips. "Cleansing fire," he said. "She has begun the invocation." "She?" asked Zuberi, and brows furrowed. Duma stood slowly. The wind whispered her name last night. "Nia." The villagers gasped. "That quiet girl. Do we stop her?" someone asked. Duma turned to the darkened sky. "Number, we watch. For now, we let the sky decide." Nia crouched by the riverbed, tracing her reflection in dust. There was no water, only cracked stone where the river once flowed. She closed her eyes and listened to the silence. Footsteps. Teboho approached, carrying something wrapped in cloth. "I found it behind Elder Duma's hut," he said. "Inside, a book, old, wrapped in goat hide. Inside, symbols and chants. It's from the shrine," he added softly. Nia flipped through the pages. Her fingers found a diagram, the full pattern of the Ogud. Tears welled in her eyes. "This is it," she breathed. "The last step." Teboho frowned. "Will it work?" Nia looked up at the sky, still stubborn and dry. She tied the cloth around her waist. "If it doesn't, the land dies." And as she stood, the wind stirred the pages. The book fell open to a final drawing. A dancer, in full flight, arms raised toward weeping skies. That night, as Nia practiced the final sequence, a cold wind sliced through the village. Roofs rattled. Goats bleated nervously. The drum sound had changed. Deeper, like thunder caught in wood. From his hut, Elder Duma stood abruptly. "She's reached the last movement," he said. Mama Ebele pounded her staff. "We must stop her now." Duma shook his head. "If we interfere, the gods may see fear. Let her finish." Across the village, other villagers peeked through the thatch windows. Shadows danced under the moon. The beat pulsed through walls into hearts. Then suddenly, silence. Nia had stopped. She stood still, arms open, head tilted to the stars. The final pose held. The wind died down. Then from above, one drop of water fell and landed at her feet. Just one. But one was enough to make the ground stir. And somewhere, deep in the sky's belly, a rumble answered. The next morning, clouds began to gather, small and scattered, but darker than the usual pale sky. Villagers stood outside, pointing upward, whispering. "She did something," said one. "No, the gods are only teasing," said another. But Nia knew. Her body ached from the dance. Her soul buzzed with the final rhythm. The drop from the sky had not been a mistake. It had been an answer. Still, the real storm had not come. Not yet. She sat beneath the baobab tree, surrounded by silence. Children watched from a distance. Elders whispered behind her back. She was not praised, she was feared. Teboho brought her roasted maize and a gourd of palm water. "You made the sky look down," he smiled. Nia smiled faintly. It's not finished. Will you dance again? She nodded. Tonight. The rhythm in her bones had not stopped, and the sky above had not yet cried. That evening, Mama Kelo, Nia's mother, stood in the doorway of their hut, arms folded. You'll bring the gods' wrath, she whispered. I'll bring their attention, Nia replied. Kelo stepped closer. Her eyes were tired from worry and grief. We've lived with drought, but never with curses. Nia touched her mother's hands. I dance for life, not pride. Kelo's lips trembled. I've lost enough already, not you. A moment passed. The wind rustled the matting. Nia looked into her mother's eyes, saw the love, the fear, and the fading hope. Then Kelo did something unexpected. She pulled a necklace from her neck, beads carved with sacred river stones, and tied it around Nia's wrist. Wear this, she said, so the ancestors will know who you are. Nia bowed her head. As her mother walked away, the air grew heavy. The clouds above were no longer watching. They were waiting. Elder Duma sat in his hut, hands trembling over the open drum. He hadn't touched it in years, not since the last time the Ogwood was attempted and failed. But Nia had gone further than anyone before. And still, the earth had not cracked. No one had died. The sky had stirred. He struck the drum softly. Once, a ripple of sound traveled through the hut. His bones ached, not from age, but from truth. He had once feared the dance because it asked a question no elder wanted to answer. What if the gods are not angry? What if they are forgotten? He stood and walked into the night, following the pulse he now felt in the air. Toward the shrine, toward the girl. He would not stop her, but he would be there. For if this was the end of Mbale, then let it be witnessed by truth. The village gathered beneath the looming clouds. Thunder grumbled in the distance. Not yet rain, but no longer silence. In the center stood Nia, barefoot, wrapped in cloth, dyed with chalk and ash. She stepped onto the sacred ground, the same ground where the last dancer fell generations ago. The drumbeat began. Elder Duma stood beside it, eyes fierce, hands steady. Step by step, Nia moved. The people did not cheer. They did not speak, but they watched. Every child, every elder, every skeptic. Her body flowed like water remembered. Her feet struck the cracked soil with grace. Her hands reached skyward like branches begging for breath. The final move came. She leapt and landed. Silence. Then, rain. Soft, hesitant, like a baby learning to walk. Then harder. Then faster. The skies opened. Villagers screamed in joy, tears mixing with drops. Nia fell to her knees, and the land drank deeply. The rain came not as thunderous rage, but as a song, gentle, insistent, full of memory. It washed over the village like a mother's blessing, soaking the dry earth and softening brittle stalks. Children danced barefoot in the puddles, their laughter louder than any drum. Women lifted their arms in praise, weeping openly, while men fell to their knees and kissed the wet soil. The old and the weary stared upward, not believing what their eyes drank in. But at the center of it all sat Nia, trembling, soaked, and silent. The water streamed down her face like a crown and an offering. She had done what no one dared. The Ogwudi had returned. The curse, if it ever truly existed, was broken. She looked up into the grey sky and whispered, "Thank you." Somewhere in the distance, thunder answered, not in anger, but in agreement. Though the rain was a blessing, it did not wash away every doubt. Within days, debates broke out among the elders and villagers. Some praised Nia as a savior. Others called her lucky. Mama Bailey warned that the rain was only a test, that more would come, and with it, a prize. You've awoken what was meant to sleep, she said bitterly, refusing to bless the fields. Elder Zubiri, once skeptical, now sat with Duma more often, asking quiet questions. Did we silence truth all these years? He wondered. A new division emerged, not between young and old, but between those who believed the gods had blessed Nia and those who feared she had tricked them. Some whispered that the rain would turn against them. Others began teaching their children the footwork of the dance. In secret, the village had water now, but peace, that was still as distant as the next cloud. One evening, long after the rain had soaked the last patch of dusty earth, Nia heard it again. The sound of a drum, faint and far, not from the shrine, but deeper, into the forest where the trees grew twisted and old. She followed the sound, past the fields and beyond the sacred grove. There, in a clearing lit by moonlight, she found an old man draped in leaves, his skin like bark, his eyes glowing like dying embers. You danced, he said without greeting. But you danced alone. Nia stood frozen, heart pounding. The village wasn't ready. He nodded slowly. Nor were you. The Ogudi is not a solo rhythm. It belongs to the earth, and to many feet. He struck the drum again. It echoed deep into her bones. Come again when you are not alone, he said, fading like smoke into the night. And Nia knew the dance had only begun. The next morning, Nia gathered the village under the baobab. Rain still dripped from the leaves, and the soil smelled alive again. She stood beside Elder Duma, now her silent ally. The dance is not forbidden, she said. It was forgotten, feared, but not evil. Some looked away, some nodded. She lifted the drum and struck it once. The sound rolled like thunder across the hills. This dance is not mine alone. It is ours. We must remember it, not only when we suffer, but when we thrive. Tiboho stepped forward first, then another girl, then two boys. Soon a circle formed. Their hands joined, their feet moved, uncertain at first, but with growing courage. As they danced, the sun broke through the clouds, golden, full, and warm. High above, the sky did not watch in silence. It listened. The village of Mbali flourished. Days turned into weeks, and rain came when called, not by pleading prayers, but through dance. Crops rose green and high. Rivers bubbled again. Joy returned like a long-lost guest. But with each dance, Nia felt a tug, a weight, as if something deep in the soil shifted each time their feet struck it. One night she returned to the clearing in the forest, where the bark-skinned man had once appeared. The moon was full. The ground was quiet until it wasn't. The earth trembled. From beneath the roots, a voice rose. Not human, not beast. It rumbled through her spine. You summoned rain without sacrifice. Nia fell to her knees. We danced with love. The voice growled. The rhythm belongs to the balance, and balance has been broken. A crack appeared in the soil, stretching toward the village. The spirits had awoken. That night, clouds gathered with fury. Not gentle, not kind. They rolled black and boiling. Thunder cracked like broken bones. Rain fell, not in droplets, but in sheets that swallowed roofs and fields. Mbale screamed. Floods surged through huts. Lightning danced in the trees. Fire licked the shrine's roof as a bolt struck it down. The sacred drum exploded with sound, and then silence. Nia stood in the square, soaked and shaking, arms lifted. Spirits, listen. But the storm did not care for words. Elder Duma clung to her side. The dance was never just movement. It was a pact. one we forgot. Tabaho's cry cut through the wind. He stood ankle deep in water, holding the broken necklace Mama Kelo had once given. Nia turned to the people. We must give back. Dance not to take, but to heal. And so, in the eye of chaos, they began again. Not with joy, but with humility. With soaked feet and trembling hearts, the villagers danced, not the Ogwudi they remembered, but a new one, born from pain, gratitude, and understanding. Nia led, her steps slow, each one an apology. Drums rose not from skins, but from hands on earth, on bark, on chests. Children clung to parents. Elders joined the circle. Even Mama Ebele, once a pillar of fear, stepped into the rhythm, tears streaming down her face. As the final step landed, the winds stopped. The sky stilled. A single beam of moonlight pierced the clouds, falling on the broken shrine. Smoke curled upward, like breath. Then the earth sighed. The flood began to recede. Nia collapsed into Duma's arms, whispering, "Did they forgive us?" He looked at the stars appearing overhead. They remembered us. And in that silence, peace returned. Years later, children danced in Mbali Square, not out of desperation, but tradition. They wore feathers and chalk, beat hand drums, and laughed under watchful skies. The Ogwude was now taught, not whispered, honored, not hidden. The shrine had been rebuilt, not to worship fear, but to remember. A stone stood where the old drum had shattered, etched with words. The sky does not punish, it waits to be heard. Nia, now older, watched from a distance, a young girl at her side, her daughter. Tabaho, tall and broad-shouldered, taught the rhythm beside her. Peace had not come without pain, but it had come. As the children danced, clouds drifted above, not heavy, not dry, just listening. And when the final step landed, a soft breeze passed through the village. Not a storm, not a curse, just a whisper from the sky. We hope you enjoyed today's story. Give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. That's all for today. Take care, folks.